Hi, good day, and welcome to our Bettery channel. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what are we having a show live at 11 a.m. in the morning? Well, of course, when you have a special guest from far away in US, we decided to engage both our viewers in Singapore as well as in US, and that's why 11 a.m. today. Welcome once again to our show and Bettery Connections program, your weekly dose for to get transformative ideas and solutions from industry experts who are making a big difference out there. All right, so thank you so much once again for joining us. And now I got some awesome news for you guys. One of the first thing is that, of course, Bettery Hub channel have 2 shows so far. And today, what we have decided, I think the news was out yesterday, we have launched our 3rd program, which is going to be on every last Thursday of the month. And it's going to be doing it better, where we're going to have a specific topic that'll be out, and you choose the topic that matters to you. And from there, we will have questions from our viewers, and then we will start discussing on this during the live chat, where you can interactively, engage with me, give your solutions, your experience, and so on. So I'm looking forward. The next one will be on the 29th July. I will, follow up with you all. Now, for those of you who have joined us, welcome once again. Now, if you are watching our live stream on YouTube, do remember to subscribe for our channel. And if you're on LinkedIn or on Facebook, remember to connect with me, and so that you get all the updates. And before we move on, I would like to also say that Bettery Hub channel have our own podcast. So all our live chats are actually downloaded as podcasts. So you are somebody who loves to, listen to audio, then do remember, you can go to Spotify, download our Bettery Hub podcast, and all the live chats are there. So, you can have spoil of choice, right? All the previous live chats are there. So without any delays, let me, maybe introduce you, our today's guest. I'm really excited. It's an old friend, awesome. I don't know how to describe, we're going to go into this, right? And now we're going to have Dr. Gideon For-mukwai. Is the founder of Story Warrior Associates Network, or SWAN Academy, a business storytelling outfit that helps business owners tell unforgettable stories that generate buzz and business. He's an award-winning speaker, and yes, I can vouch for that. He's awesome, and best-selling author of The Science of Storytelling. He considers himself a product of Africa, and proceeded in Asia, packaged in America, and distributed worldwide. So, he's been everywhere, right? And as a kid growing up in Africa, Gideon used to be very mischievous. Everyone in his village said that he would end up in jail. And you know what? He ended up in America, right? And that's the whole reason he managed to even change the timing of our show. And that's how impact that Gideon gives to people, right? So let us bring on Gideon and Dr. Gideon.
Hey, Sakti, good to see you. Good to see you. Good morning in Singapore. I know it's evening in US, but I know it's morning in Singapore.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Dr. Gideon. I'm really excited to have you on our show. And we were talking about this for quite some time. And today here we are.
Absolutely. I am so proud of what you're doing out there, helping folks, helping our fellow warriors on the road, around the island, doing good work. So that's amazing. I could not say no at all. How could I say no to a good friend, and not just a friend, but one who is deep down in the trenches and doing good work?
Thank you. Gideon, it's really awesome to hear this from you, because we have known each other. Of course, we're going to go into a bit of your backstory in a while, something that will surprise a lot of our guests. Thank you so much to hear this from you, and it was so awesome of you to straight away say good to go the moment I say what you are doing out there to the people. It will make a lot of difference to our viewers, and you are like right smack straight away, Sakti, boom, let's do this. And I really appreciate that. Especially at your busy schedule. In fact, I know to the viewers, he just finished a 1 full day of training, and then he's still here with us today, and the energy level did not drop. That's Gideon for you. Before we move on, I'd like to just tell some of you guys, Dr. Gideon does have something for you all, which he will be sharing with you all later part, a white paper. So there is a link that is already out on our live chat. So later, after this, if you need to go through the link, just please do feel free. It's on the comment section. And hi, Mubina. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, this recording will be available on YouTube, and it is streaming on our Bettery Lab YouTube channel. So you can just message me if you want the link later. And thank you for joining us. The best is stay live with us and engage Dr. Gideon, right? You can ask him all the questions. So Mubina, thank you. And yes, Dr. Gideon, I've been talking a lot, so it's time for me to engage you. Right. So let's talk about your brief introduction of yourself and your journey behind your current success.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Like you said earlier, I see myself as a product of Africa, processed in Singapore, very carefully processed in Singapore and in Asia, and then distributed around the world, based in America. But I'm very much proudly a Singaporean. And to a large extent, I will be sharing a little bit more about some of the work that I'm doing now. The genesis of it was back in Singapore. So I give all credit to Singapore, I give all credit to Asia. And yes, some credit to Africa too, because I grew up in Africa.
Yep. And Dr. Gideon, I got a surprise for you. And, now that our viewers know that you were from Africa, you were in Singapore, and then you, right now, you are in US, right? I got a photo that I managed to find.
Oh my goodness. Where did you get that? You must have done a lot of research,
I'm an ex-ranger, so I will be able to get all the information I need to. So this is a photo that you are in your SCDF uniform. So maybe you want to tell us, what have you been doing in Singapore in SCDF?
Yes, for the viewers who may not know, when I first finished college in Africa, I came to Singapore to study, and eventually I stayed in Singapore. And believe it or not, I joined the home team. I wasn't serving NS. I joined the home team. I was a proud member of the home team. I went through 9 months officer training to become a fire officer, with the SCDF. And so that's me. I was still getting training over in Jalan Bahar. And boy, did I fight some fires. Yes, I fought some fires around around Singapore, responded to a lot of suicide calls. But I was based at Alexandra Fire Station, worked briefly at Bishan Fire Station, covered sometimes for Central Fire Station. Yeah, I'm a true blood Singaporean. Just happens that I was born overseas. But yes, that's a little bit of me. And you can deceive me about anything in Singapore. What's the coolest corner where you can get the best kopi? No, you cannot fool me about that. Yes, I currently live in US, but I'm still very much in touch with everything that's happening.
In fact, Gideon, the reason why I got this photo was I had one of our viewers, connections in LinkedIn told me, Dr. Gideon is from US. So some of the concepts that he's going to share may not be applicable to Singapore. And then I told him, look, I got something for you. So I managed to get this photo. I told him he's Asian, he's from Africa, but he's Asian. And he's been in Singapore, long enough to tell you he knows how the market here works. He knows how the people here think. So, he has enough exposure here. So you don't have to worry. So I think that's where I stumbled upon this photo, and I just couldn't resist myself putting it out there.
You're a true ranger. But let me tell you this, you could have seen a few more somewhere. In the days after I finished working as a fire officer, I even did some acting. They may find some in the media, some not very glamorous, but I was playing different roles in different commercials, some of which were played on national TV and so on. So anyway, I'm not saying that to distract you, but just to say that there's a treasure trove of other things that you can find about me. I came here to study, to do a doctorate program, and I finished it, boom. COVID came and smashed everything. And even though I finished the program, I could not return to Singapore because COVID was well alive around the world. So finished it last year in May, not this year. And of course, travel was almost as difficult as anything else. But I may be coming back very, very soon once things are settled down.
Great. And I'm really looking forward, for you to be here, where we can go for runs and, catch up over a cup of coffee, right?
Absolutely. And, absolutely.
And the thing is this, let's talk about your present role, Dr. Gideon, your present role as a founder of SWAN Academy. Maybe you want to talk more on that? I love the acronym, right? SWAN, Story Warriors, I love that.
Thank you. So the idea behind Story Warrior, and by the way, it was birthed in Singapore, was one of my colleagues with whom I used to meet frequently to help out with a project. She would every once in a while turn around and ask me, "Hey Gideon, you're the story guy, you're the story warrior. What do you think about this?" So I thought that was fascinating. I wasn't calling myself story warrior when I started out, but this came to my realization around 2014. So I tested the idea in 2015 here in US. It caught fire. And so I started going around telling everybody I'm a story warrior. And I decided to rebrand and start calling myself the story warrior. And come to think about it, the swan, the animal or the bird, is a very loyal animal, very faithful. So I thought, don't we need storytellers who are ethical, who are loyal, who are true to their values? So I decided to rebrand around Story Warrior Associates Network. And that's how it came about. So people ask me, who is a story warrior? And I say a story warrior is someone who is capable of fighting business fires without fighting a shot. You fight business fires using stories, using ideas, using analogies, because analogies and stories get into the mind of everyone and they can touch their heart. If you can touch their heart and their mind, you win them over without ever firing a shot. So that's who a story warrior is.
And after our previous conversations way before, and when I started incorporating or integrating stories, today I can't imagine myself going for any sales appointment or any speaking engagements without a story. Right? It's like I can't imagine myself doing that.
That means you are perfect. You are a perfect story warrior on duty, bro. You are a story warrior on duty, discharging your duties in all parts of the world, in the trenches, without even letting the world know that you're a warrior. You're a warrior at work. So that's all it takes.
Yeah, and that's excellent, and that's why for our viewers, any point of time, do engage, especially how you can apply this. How can this storytelling be integrated in what you are doing? Do engage Dr. Gideon. It's an excellent opportunity for you, and I'm sure with your questions, many other of our viewers will be able to benefit from this. And let's talk about what inspired you, Dr. Gideon. You were from Africa, and like what you said in the introduction, right? You were so-called projected to be in the jail, right? By villagers, right? And you ended up in Singapore, and then now you are in US. What inspired you to be the expert today?
I think, generally speaking, I'm a very curious guy. I'm always very curious about what's happening out there. What can I learn from the next guy? What is it that I'm missing? I always see that the other people around me, they're doing something better. They're better off than me. And I'm always curious in terms of finding out, how can I get better? So I think that's part of what brought me initially to Singapore to study IT. And later on to say, you know what? I can also make a contribution to this phenomenal nation, And then I got my full dose of that. Then I stepped out, said, let me try my hand at entrepreneurship. And I tried my hand at entrepreneurship in Singapore. Then later on, when I came here for doctoral studies, I also kept my business alive. And so I would say the primary thing that has kept me going is my curiosity, or some of my friends would call it blind optimism. I'm very, very, very a consummate optimist. I believe that tomorrow will be better than today. And so that's the thing that it keeps driving me forward every single day.
Nice. And I like to share this experience that I had with Dr. Gideon. I'm sure you will remember. Many years ago, when you came out, I attended one of your sessions. We are having a gig, and then it was your turn to present. And I remember you were wearing this scarf around your neck.
Yep, I still have it.
Yeah, and you, I think that's your signature, right?
Yes,
it's remember, and I remember you shared the story about getting your shoe.
My shoeless and clueless story. Yeah,
it's an excellent story, and that was what hit me. It's like, wow, it's like his one experience became a story that made me, so captivated. And then the way you actually put across the learning value behind that. Now, how could I ever have done that better than through a story? And I think that was the start state where I decided, yep, that's it. I'm going to be a storyteller.
And honestly, I didn't know that story touched you. I know other people that have worked with them in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, and KL, other parts of Asia, who have come up to me and said, man, that story. I remember one lady in particular at HSBC, downtown in Orchard. She said to me, that story, it enabled me to stop living in self-pity. I'll never forget that. And for some reason, I always thought that story was not very important because it's boring. It's not the most, it's not funny. It's a very deep and soul-searching story. But turns out some people connect with that, and now you're saying that you even still remember it. I would not have known that. If you didn't say it, I would not have known that at all. So that's the power of story. Several years later, people can still remember it.
Right. And what we're going to do this, now Dr. Gideon will not be expecting this, but I think, this just goes on well. Later on the show, we're going to get Dr. Gideon to share that story. And then, let's see how he actually weave a specific learning point to us. Would that be good, Dr. Gideon?
That'll be fine. And I think I'm cool with Gideon. We're friends, even though it's a formal channel. But hey, if that becomes necessary, if one of the people on the show requests that, I'm happy to take you on a little journey and maybe share 1 or 2, 3 lines from that.
Sure. Okay. So, viewers out there, remember, we're going to have Gideon to be telling us a story and a learning value, a live demonstration of how you can tell a story, and then followed by put across a point. We have Jude who have joined us. Hi, Jude. Thank you. I see that uniform. Thank you for serving the nation and keeping us safe. Thanks, Jude, for joining us. And okay, so yes, I'm a ranger, and yes, it will be really nice to hear my stories and experience. I will definitely do that another time, Jude. But I gotta find somebody to interview me because I can't stop, right? You need somebody to stop me. But thanks, Jude, for joining us, and definitely, I will definitely have a session where I will share about my ranger story. And thanks, Jude, for joining us. And with that, let's move on. Let's deep dive into the topic for the day, right? Let's talk about business storytelling, because we have entrepreneurs, we have sales professionals, whether they are from real estate, a lot of financial services professionals out there, leaders, they are all here. And so I think it'll be great if you can just, let's talk about a bit on business storytelling. Why does storytelling matter in business?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it matters in business because, business people are always thinking about their assets. They're always thinking about their liabilities. And I think that a story is an invisible asset. It's an invisible asset that doesn't occur anywhere on your balance sheet. But if you look at it carefully, every business will tell you that they got assets, they got liabilities. And I would say it is even a good thing that our stories don't feature on a balance sheet, because your story is part of your brand. Your story can project your brand or it can weaken your brand. And the reason I say it's an invisible asset is because nobody really quantifies it. The government doesn't quantify it. The government doesn't care about it. But if you use it out there, it's literally like you are injecting an invisible substance into someone's mind and to someone's heart and getting the results out of that. So I even use the word asset also as an acronym. The A stands for attention getter. If you use your stories very well, they get people's attention. Why? Because humans make sense of the world through stories. I hear what has happened to you and I'm saying, you know what? I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going to avoid taking that route that you've taken through Passeries. I'm not going to take that route because I don't want to run into some trouble with the bad guys. Why am I doing that? It's because of the story that you told me. As a little boy, my mom taught or shared a lot of stories with me about boys who smoked marijuana and they lost their minds. And I grew up and never tried anything like that. Not because of anything else, but because that story got my attention. And I'm like, I don't want to lose my mind. I can lose my limbs, I can lose everything else, but I want to have my mind intact. So that's the power of a story. It can change people's minds. The first S in assets stands for a stimulant. A story can actually stimulate our interest to lean forward. It can inspire us. It can get us to pay full attention. So it stimulates our minds, depending on what kind of story you're telling. The second S also means it can be used to sow a seed in the mind of someone. You tell a story today, the person doesn't act on it. Takes a couple of weeks. They run into an incident, they run into an accident, they run into some issue, and that makes a connection to the story that you told them. And then they act upon it. So it was lying quietly, it was lying dormant in your mind without you knowing. But once you run into an incident that relates to that story, boom, it comes to life and it grows in you and it changes the way that you behave. The E in asset stands for emojutainer. What do I mean by that? Stories can allow us to emotionally engage, to educate, and to entertain. Now, there are many, many ways of engaging people, but story is fascinating because you can turn it from a little poem into a little comedic piece. You can turn it from a little dramatic piece into a little melodramatic piece. You can turn it around. You can provide wisdom with it, which you cannot do with drama. You cannot do with poetry. You cannot do with other forms of engagement. But story lends itself to emotional engagement, which is very good. It also lends itself to educating or informing, maybe about a product or a service, and also a little bit of entertainment. And last but not the least, the T stands for trust builder. He who tells the best story has the best opportunity to be the one to be the most trusted. Now, if you tell a lousy story, on the other hand, it can actually work against you. So that's why it's important to not just tell, but learn how to tell it in a way that builds credibility. I'm sorry, that was a very long answer to a very short question.
So, but excellent, right? And I love your E. Emoji.
Emojutainer.
Yeah, it's something that I remember when I came for your recent webinar. You were saying that it's something that you came up yourself, which makes a lot of sense, right?
Yes.
Emotions. You educate at the same time you entertain, right? And
Yes.
that's cool. I mean, the last time I remember sitting in a webinar or in a class and somebody is just going on with contents, I'm like, that's it. You lost me. But
Exactly.
like, when you're talking about stories, when even in any sales presentation, I think it's about getting the trust. So it makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. On this part. Now let's talk about our business owners. Me being a business owner myself in sales, right? Maybe you can tell about how storytelling benefited sales professionals from your experience.
Oh yeah, it does benefit, and it's benefited me quite a bit. I would argue that the first time I went to Brunei, of course, Brunei, it wasn't because I was the most awesome trainer, was the most awesome speaker in any way. I got lucky because someone heard me speak somewhere and kind of liked my story, and they went and sold me to someone in Brunei. They flew me out of Singapore to Brunei. I went there to conduct training several times. I mean, it was a privilege. But my point here being that if you are in the world of sales, you can leverage stories. When you meet with prospects, you can share with them a little bit about your backstory. Now, everybody does have a backstory, but the only question is, how do you tell it? Do you share it in a way that comes across as being the hero in the journey? Or do you share it in a way that comes across as someone who has the humility to also learn and to benefit from the wisdom of those around you? So when you meet prospects, when you do boardroom presentations, when you do sales meetings, all of these situations, or even when you're coaching your staff, they lend themselves to the use of stories in selling your ideas or in selling your products, and better still, or in selling your services. And I would say for financial professionals, for real estate professionals, there is nothing as powerful as some of the stories that you've coined based on past clients that you can use. It's better than the brochure you have in hand, because the brochure, they can throw it away. But the story that you told them, if you coined it well, it stays up here, it stays here for a very, very long time. I can tell you without any shadow of doubt.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I mean, now that when I reflect back, being being in the financial industry itself, even till today, when I talk to a lot of my clients, I think it's always about the stories, right? And when they do referrals, it's like, hey, you should listen to this guy's story. He has been arranged. So it's always a story that some or other connects with certain services or something that we do uniquely to us. So that's definitely something. And now we have Jude again. Hi, Jude. Yes, definitely. It's nice to keep the audience captivated to your stories. We should make them interested in what you stand by. Definitely. And I think one thing just to add on to Gideon is that I think it is something that's very unique to us, right? Because our experiences is unique to us. So when we tell a story, it becomes very unique to us.
Yep. And A famous Hollywood writer, Howard Robert McKee says, stories are the currency of human transaction, the currency of human engagement. So stories, we trade on stories. We meet, we share them. It's something that if you do a good job, yours will pass on from mouth to mouth to mouth to mouth. Think about Aesop's fables. They've been around longer than Christ. Aesop's fables, some of them been around before the Bible was written. So can you imagine the power of that?
Yeah. And let's talk about what are the common mistakes that you think when individuals are trying to embark onto storytelling.
Yep, I see them all the time, and maybe I make them also sometimes. We share a story, but we don't make a point. It means the story is kind of like hanging in the air. The goal of a story is to make a point. So when you make a point, it means you ground it. You ground it in some form of detail. You put a flag to the ground. You put what they call an anchor. So if you tell the story and you end without an anchor, without what is the essence of it, what was the point of it, then it is a lost opportunity because people feel like, oh my goodness, you leave me hanging. That's one mistake that I see folks making. And I occasionally make it too. I'm still human. Another one that I see people making is that they do so much in terms of the background. They allow the background to take so much so that when they get to the complications, when they get to the body of the story, they have limited time to paint pictures that will stay longer in the minds of the audience. The story really gets its legs. The story becomes a currency when you're able to fill in details in the center or in the middle and then end it well with a strong point. So we should not spend too much time in the background to the story. That's
And
a mistake.
one common thing that I've seen, maybe Gideon, you can give us an advice, is like some start with the term saying that let me tell you a story. And I've heard a lot of times,
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of times, never tell people that you're going to tell a story and just go with it, right? So
Yeah,
what I
exactly. Absolutely true. If they are older than fifth graders, don't announce the story. Don't announce it.
just
Yes,
go with it.
just jump in. The way to jump in or the way to clue them that it's a story, or just say, a few weeks ago, I had an experience. A few weeks ago, something happened to me. Or have you ever been in a situation whereby someone splashed water on your face? And that gets everyone's attention. Splash water
Yeah.
on your face or splash wine onto your face. What did you do? What you're actually doing there is you're announcing a story, but without saying, let me tell you a story. And there's a whole reason why you cannot announce it or you should not announce it. And it has to do with the way our educational system has evolved in the last 200 years. Now, we don't have the time to go into that, but
Yeah.
to get it straight to the point is for adults, professionals, don't say, let me tell you my story. No, just say, hey, I want to give you a sense of how I got to be in this area. This is how I got to be here in 1941, in 1929. Now, most of us were not around. Maybe you say, you know that in 2002, something happened to me that changed the way that I look at the world. That you're still announcing a story and you're getting their attention because then they're leaning, okay, what happened to you? I hope it doesn't happen to me. And then you jump in right there.
Right. And we have Anil. Hi, Anil. Thank you, for joining us. And yeah, Anil is someone who loves storytelling. He's been like in all our live chats. Thank you, Anil. We have
Awesome.
two questions. We have two questions for you, Dr. Gideon. One is from Jude. How do you share stories without being too much of a hard sell?
Oh, great. Thank you, Jude. You see, stories work subliminally. In other words, you share it, say, this is my experience, and you don't have to push it, you don't have to emphasize it so much. And then you could let the listener or the person in your audience say, well, that's my viewpoint. I'll let you make up your own mind. So then it's not a hard sell. Then it's I've presented the facts. I have given you a narrative of what happened to me. If you want it to happen to you, you may as well ignore that. But if you don't want it to happen to you, then you may be in a good position to avoid it. So what's happening there is their amygdala, because I'm very, very particular about story science, their amygdala, which is a part of the brain that is very emotion focused, would be informing the system, we don't want this to happen to us, because amygdala is designed for fight or flight. So if you tell a story about a bad experience or something that happened to you, amygdala will be informing or encoding the message into your system and say, don't you go to that place. For example, I was running somewhere around Safety in Singapore. I ran into, I got to a point where I saw a snake sleeping on the road, right on the pavement where I was jogging. Man, I sprang off. I ran faster than ever. Whenever I got there, guess what? My amygdala, my brain will remind me of that location. That's called an episodic moment. And so, if you are good at telling stories, you use episodic moments, they will allow the person listening to say, if bad things happen to Sakti, I don't want bad things to happen to me. And that by itself is not a hard sell. That by itself is a soft sell, because it allows the other person to make up their own mind based on your own personal experience. And that experience, if it's a good episodic moment, it can still create as much fear in the mind of the receiver just as in the mind of the teller.
Awesome. And Jude, if this answers your question, just give us a thumbs up. And thank you.
If not, we can keep going.
Yeah, we can keep going. All right. Next question we have is from Iskandar. Hi, Iskandar. Thanks for joining
Hi,
in.
Iskandar.
His question is, what forms or mediums have you used to tell your stories? Non-verbal medium.
Iskandar kind of looks familiar. Looks like I know Mr. Iskandar, But anyway, besides the point, I've used different media to share my stories. I've used social media like Facebook. I think right now I have a story on Facebook and on LinkedIn about visiting a part of US where you have the Amish people that are very, very conservative. And so that's social media. I've also used non-virtual media. In other words, in person. It's interpersonal platforms. So I've used offline and offline media to tell my story. I've used books, which of course I wouldn't classify as online. I've used in person, I've used books, and I've used social media. And occasionally when I get lucky, I get on a show like this one or mass media too. I've done radio in Singapore, I've done radio in Botswana, I've done radio in South Africa, radio in France, radio in Cameroon, and radio here in US. And TV, I've done TV in Canada. And that's about it.
Right. So, Iskandar, if that answers your question, same thing, just give us a thumbs up. And if not, we can go on and on, right?
That's right.
Right. So going back, to the part on storytelling or business storytelling, right? Maybe you can tell us how can storytelling actually give sales professionals or business owners a competitive advantage?
Oh, look at that. That's a great question, because we as business people, we're often in competition, as they say in French, concurrence. We're always competing with others. So there are three areas that I think that stories would give you the competitive edge. Number one, they enable you to be relatable. Because if you're meeting with a prospect, they're looking at you with very skeptical eyes. They're looking at you, I don't know if I'll get along well with this guy. I don't know where he's coming from. Maybe he has a different physical outlook like myself. Maybe he has a different accent, and they're doubting. But when you pull off a little gentle story from your pocket, of course, not reading it, and you share with them, they begin to nod. That nodding is saying, I can relate to you. I can see where you're coming from. That means the story enables a business person to be relatable. The next thing that a story would also allow a business person to do is to be memorable. Now, is memorable important? Absolutely yes. Imagine if someone is having a meeting with 3 or 4, 5, 6 salespeople about a particular widget or a particular product. Now, at the end of the day, they're going to remember the guy to a large extent. They'll remember the guy, not the guy that didn't have much to say, but a guy that had a little gentle, powerful story to share about how that widget can make a difference in their lives or in the lives of those around them. So if you're preparing for that meeting, you know that you'll be talking about this widget, and you find a story that shows the significance of this widget, you would leave that meeting making an impact on the other person, because now that widget takes on a significant meaning. It's put in the spotlight. They can see the glaring importance of that widget. It doesn't just come across as one other widget, but a significant widget that can be used in solving a practical problem. So the story would put a spotlight on how that widget is used in solving a problem that affects that potential prospect. And then the last part, story would also enable you to be credible. You have a personal example or a business example of how this has helped someone else. And if you're able to nail that in terms of, hey, look at how it worked for my friend Sakti. Look at how it worked for my friend Iskandar. Look at how it worked for my friend Ali. They will look at it and say, oh, you know what? If it could work for Ali, it could work for me. So what you're doing there is you're building credibility, you're building memory, and you're building likability or relatability. Those are the elements that would eventually, subliminally, encourage the person to say, you know what, you're somebody that I can do business with. So I think that's what we should be using on the front lines. Should we overuse it? No. We should use it just enough to make an impact and leave the rest to the client to make their judgment.
Right. And Iskandar, have a question on this. Have you
Awesome.
used photojournalism for storytelling?
So far, I have not been very good in that area, but I know people that are good in that area. And if Iskandar is good in that area, by all means do that, because photos, like they say, they speak 1,000 words more. One photo can tell a story that a couple of words cannot. And most of us humans, based on the knowledge that we know from neuroscience, our brains remember images more than anything else. So if you're able to use stories, you're still planting seeds of influence in the minds of your audience. So using a photo is even more powerful than using words. However, the storytellers who are capable of using words, not just random words, but words that have word pictures, imagery, they too can move people to tears by using images that are already stocked. We all carry images in our minds. So whether you have a physical image or not, you can still activate it in the mind. But if you're able to have one concrete image on your screen, I think it goes a long way. So yeah, I would totally agree with Iskandar that you can use photos or photojournalism in storytelling. Absolutely.
Nice. And thanks, Iskandar, for the question. Now we'll move on to the next part. How can sales professionals, right, leverage on business storytelling? So in this case, right, what is the first step that they can take to start their storytelling journey?
First step, let me see. The first step I would say is to collect good stories and have them crafted, polished, and tested. I know that's quite a number of things, but if you don't have a story that you've tested, how do you know if it works? So the ideal thing there is, on an ongoing basis, you should create what I call a story folder on your desktop or in the cloud. And every now and then, if you have something that happens to you, if it makes you to say, OMG, unbelievable, wow, that is a story-worthy moment. That's a story-worthy idea. Make a note of it. You may not have it fully formed. You may not have it fully developed, but make a note of that moment. And what did it teach you? What did you learn from that moment? Some people call it teachable moments. And then later on, when you're going to meet with a client, you ask yourself, which of these stories, especially if you've taken time to develop them, would be suitable in coming across as relatable and knowledgeable on this topic? Then you pick that, you fine-tune it a little bit, and then you can use it. So first step, I would say, start collecting, start curating, start crafting and curating, polishing them, and keeping them ready to use when you meet clients.
Right. So now that we actually have an individual who have a bank of stories that they have, right? I mean, you slowly worked on it, you polished it, and you have that. So how do they actually weave it? How do you actually help them, individuals, when you work with them, right? How do you actually help them to weave these stories in as part of their sales presentation? Is there a particular way of doing it?
Yes. When I work, say, with clients, I first of all look at what is the purpose of the meeting, and then weave only what is suitable. If it's a 10-minute coffee meeting, okay, then we just need a small story that's about 2-3 minutes long. It could be a backstory. However, if you are meeting with a larger group and you're doing a presentation that's about an hour, okay, then we know that we have the opportunity to have one story at the start, maybe one towards a close. And in the middle, we can dwell on other issues. Or we can even spice things up in the middle. So depending on the need, we can then choose what kind of story to go in at the start, at the end, in the middle. And sometimes when I work with some clients, I realize that, you know what? A personal story will not do a good job. It would instead be a different kind of story. And it could be a mission story. It could be something, a credibility story from someone else. Use that. And we're not saying that it must always be yours. No, it can be a success story based on some other company, some other organization. And that too will still inform somebody just as good or just as well as it were based on your personal experience.
And just a question. I mean, Dr. Gideon, it just came up to me. So, assuming I have planned that I'm going to meet up yourself, and
Yes.
it's a presentation, and I have planned for a story at the start, and I'm talking to you, and bam, the story goes well with you. I see you captivated, I see you interested. So, from that point, would there be any suggestion you have? How can I translate that into a sales then? Do I engage you more with questions, or is there anything from your experience that you can suggest?
Oh yes, I would say the highlight of the story is the epiphany, or what was the point of the story. In the course of crafting your epiphany, it should be something that is related to the problem of the individual you're talking to. Why? So that epiphany or that point would be self-revelatory. You don't have to knock on them again and say, oh, by the way, I'm telling you this because of this. No, you make that point, and it's one in which they can see themselves. It's one in which they can see their pain. Their pain is related to that epiphany. That will be self-explicit. And in my style, I will not say explain it to them. That would be like dumping down too much. Leave it where it is, and they will make up their mind. It's not like I see storytelling not as hard selling. I see it as a gentle, subliminal. I see it as a thoughtful, respectful way of engaging with your client and giving them the opportunity to make up their own mind. You're not trying to whack them. You're not trying to push them. For me, I'm very, very big about ethical storytelling. We got the tools that can help somebody, can push someone over the line. But that's not what I teach. Even though I know the tools, I think it's a special force. It's a special superpower that we must use with care. So I would suggest that let the epiphany be self-explicit. Don't go any further than that. Let that individual make up their mind. If they come to you, then you know you fully deserve their business, and you know that you've done a very good job.
And I do resonate with this because for me, I always was against the idea of hard selling.
Yes.
Right? And I had this, I mean, the early days as an entrepreneur, right? I always have this thoughts about, should I just go there? And if I don't see any response from my clients or from the prospect I'm talking to, how do I get them? And I realized that when I started using storytelling, and once the story was done and I managed to, create that emotional impact, it was quite easy It's like
Yep.
they were like coming forward to tell me, so Sakti, what's next?
Yes, that is powerful. And in that case, you do not have to push them. You let the story do the telling. You let the story speak for itself. Matter of fact, when I run some events, they from the first story to the second story to the third one, they're all aligned. Even though there may be gaps in between, somebody might not realize that these are very, very carefully coordinated. They're very carefully planned, and the meaning from each one of them would circle the client or the prospect and communicate a particular important epiphany that you want them to have. So that's in essence the power of that. If I may, I mean, agree with you again, as we often do. Yeah.
Yeah. And Iskandar has another question for you. He says his last question. Iskandar, no issues. You can always ask us more
He's
questions.
the curious gentleman. I like that.
And how we can curate our stories effectively, write it down, voice recording. Yes, memory can fail and diminishes the impact, or worse, diminishes a memory that will be retold in the story. So any suggestions, Dr. Gideon?
I think it's gonna, the key there is write it down, have it on a system like in the cloud, so you can reference it. But here's what I know: there's some portions of a story that can change over time. There are some portions that cannot change. So, for example, in the exposition at the start, you can always tune that exposition a little bit to suit the audience. So, for example, if I'm talking to younger students, I can tune the exposition to make it sound to use a character that is younger, or to identify somebody in the story who is as young as the audience that I'm speaking to. So today I was speaking to a group in a youth reformatory prison. I talked about the same story that I've used with adults, but I talked about the audience being my high school students. Why? Because they are about the age of high school students. They were onlookers. So why do you do that? So that you can change the exposition, or you can change the learning, the epiphany in a slightly different way, so that it reaches the heart of the audience that you're talking to. So to sum it up, I would say write the story down so that you don't lose the important details. But in the course of preparing it to go and tell, you may change a few details here and there, colorful details here and there, or exaggerations, which is part of your creative liberty. It's part of your creative license. And when you exaggerate, they will know. They know that you're just using an element of story to give them relief or release. So it's not bad. It is actually acceptable that you can use exaggeration. You can add in humor. And when you add in humor, they know that you're just trying to give them some levity. You're not trying to take advantage of them. But I insist, let the stories be based on fact. Let the story, to a large extent, be based on something that happened to you.
Right. And thanks, Iskandar, for the question. And again, just give us a thumbs up. And right now, going into this, right? We spoke about business storytelling. We spoke about storytelling for sales professionals, for entrepreneurs. So, Dr. Gideon, from your experience, does storytelling only benefit sales professionals or entrepreneurs, or
absolutely not? It benefits more people. Teachers, I consider myself an educator. I use it to impregnate the minds of my students with excitement for learning. I use it as an educator, but I know people that use stories as leaders. They are exceptionally good. Look at National Day rally, when you see MPs, you see Prime Minister, they're using stories to talk about events. They're talking about Singaporeans that have excelled in particular areas. Look at U.S. state, they call it state of nation, and all of that. The leaders are using stories to show people how ordinary people can excel beyond reasonable doubt. Why are they doing that? Because they want to inspire more people to work hard. So whether it's JFK, whether it's MLK, whether it's Gandhi, whether it's our prime minister, look at the corporate CEOs. When they're talking, what are they talking about? They're using stories to make points, because stories go straight to the heart. So I would say it's not only for sales professionals. It's for parents, it's for educators, it's for politicians, it's for leaders, it's for grassroots leaders, it's for everyone who is in the business of meeting with people and sharing information with them.
And I like this part when you say that it's for everyone who's in the business of meeting people, right?
Yes, doctors, nurses. That we're now seeing research that indicates that stories can also be used in helping people to heal quicker from some forms of illnesses. So it can be used by nurses and doctors. It can be used by grassroots leaders. It can be used by, you know, the guys in the coffee shop. You know, they can use a tale or two to get you to sit down and feel a little bit easy if you're looking a little bit anxious, and everybody wins. So salespeople, non-salespeople can use stories. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I won't write off those guys in the coffee shop, right? I mean, most of the time when I have my black coffee, the uncles, you know, who are sitting down, I mean, they are one of the best storytellers telling their experiences and relate to the current situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The aunties selling the curry puff in Jerome West, where I always buy my curry puff. Sometimes I will have a little chat with them, and they're like looking at me. They give me they look at me. They think, oh, this guy must be a foreigner, movie star. Huh? I'm like, no, don't give me the movie star prizes. Give me the local prizes. I'm not a tourist. I'm a Singaporean. Please give me. And then they're like, no, I thought you were some rich American dude. That no, I'm like, no. I live right off the block there. And then they'll give you a better deal. So I get a better deal with my curry puff. I get a better deal with, buying any of the local stuff, because I go to the wet market. I don't let anybody take advantage of me thinking that I'm a foreigner. So it goes a long way. But at the same time, I also listen to them. Then I also tell stories so that I can soften up the conversation.
Right. And so for those, because I've attended, I do understand that you do have actually webinars that's run on LinkedIn. I think about 2 weeks ago you had one. It was awesome. Yes. When I attended. So for our viewers, if they are looking into joining you, apart from contacting you directly, they can also look out for webinars that you'll be conducting.
Oh yes, thank you very much for plugging that. I have one actually coming up tomorrow. You may not know this. I have one tomorrow night, and you can get information. If, let's say, you drop in something into the chat box, forward it to our hosts, to Sakti, you can forward it to me. I'll send you a link to join our webinar tomorrow, which would be evening in US, but morning in Singapore. It's going to be around, I think, 9 a.m. in Singapore, and it's going to be on how to use your story to reach more people who are hungry for the lessons that you've learned from life. So if you have an idea, you have an experience that comes close to your heart, and you're wondering, my goodness, what is this all about? There are some people out there who are looking to make sense of the world based on your experiences. All you need to do is have the courage to step out and say, hey, this is me. I learned to climb Mount Everest. I learned to climb Mount Kota Kinabalu, and I got an experience from there. So you want to go climb that mountain? I can help you with that. So that's what we'll be talking about. Use that experience, that backstory, to create buzz in the marketplace, and in the course of that, generate a profit from it. Ethically speaking, ethically.
Cool. And for those of you, when I mentioned earlier, I think this is the link that Dr. Gideon I actually put it up on the chat at the early part of our comments. So you can. This is actually for maybe you want to explain what is it that Dr. Gideon, you wanted to give them a white paper?
Oh yeah, this white paper is on telling captivating stories. Why is it important? And to some extent, what kind of stories can you use? So if you were to click on that link, you fill up the info. I'll be happy to send you this white paper that I took some time to work on as a gift, my own little token, my own way of blessing you for spending time with us today or listening to this special program from Bettery Hub. And I want you to grow. I'm sure you also want us to grow, but I don't just want to do it wishfully. I want to send you something that can begin to improve and uplift your desire to grow in this area. It has transformed my life professionally. And I'm grateful to the people that reminded me that this is a professional area that can help me. I didn't believe in it initially. I didn't think that story was important. There are people that were telling me, hey, Gideon, go focus on this. There's a gentleman in Singapore by name Tom Abbott, he insisted, he's a Canadian guy, PR in Singapore, said, Gideon, focus on storytelling, focus on this. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. So my point being, if you were to download that white paper, it's going to give you some tips, some ideas on how to get started.
Right. And for those of you who looking to get more information from Dr. Gideon, do check out his LinkedIn page. And yes, definitely, we are not coming to the end. We still have a few questions for Dr. Gideon.
Sure, no
I just
problem.
want to run through this.
Problem.
And all right. So one of the things is that Dr. Gideon, I love asking our guests is actually rapid questions. Questions that we are looking into starting to give options, option 1, 2, and 3 to choose the next time around. But for today, I decided, we already have the question here. And for the viewers out there, Dr. Gideon does not know what the question is going to be, so it's going to be quite surprising.
Should I be very worried? Should I be worried? Am I going to lose all my hair? I've already lost all of it.
No. I mean, it's questions that I think you'll be able to answer. It's the whole idea of the rapid question is when it comes out fast, you get to have interesting answers, right?
Okay, think on your feet, time. Okay.
And are you ready, Dr. Gideon?
Yes, let's do this. Let's do this, Sakti.
All right. So your greatest fail, any lessons remembered?
Biggest lesson I've learned from my failure is that you should never allow fear to stop you from doing something. If you believe in something, don't let fear stop you. I've lost some deals, I've lost some projects because I let fear discourage me. But get back up, continue running forward. You'll still finish, you'll still get to the finish line.
Right, awesome. And where do you see Dr. Gideon in 5 years?
Oh my goodness. Let me see. In 5 years, ideally, I should have operations in at least maybe 5 countries. I have sustainable operations here in the US now, the West Coast and a little bit on the East Coast. I should potentially have some operations, either associates working for Swan Academy in Singapore, in Canada, in South Africa, and maybe 1 or 2 other countries. I think things are growing, things are picking up so fast that I know that I cannot consume all the opportunities that are coming in. So I'm beginning to look for associates that can deliver some of the work that I'm getting and deliver it in good faith so that we continue to serve people that I need. Because it is a very, very, very difficult experience to have something that you want to share with the world, but you're not so sure how to take it into the marketplace. So I don't want anybody to go die with a story in themselves just because they don't have the means to tell that story. So I want to be in at least 3 to 5 countries with operations.
Nice, awesome. I mean, wow, I'm looking forward for that. Now, your biggest challenge coaching someone?
Oh my goodness, that one is straightforward. I think the people that are not forthcoming, in other words, they're guarded. They don't want to open up. It's like they're impermeable. That's very difficult because I don't want to manufacture the facts. I don't want to do fiction. I don't do fiction. If you give me a grain of truth, we can embellish it a little bit to make it sassier, funnier, quirkier. But without you opening up and sharing with us vulnerable experiences that you face in life, not just the good things that have happened to you. I want some moments of challenges, trials, tribulations, moments when you've fallen flat, you got burnt. All right, I need that. I want to see your scars. If you hide all your scars from me, I can help you well. So that I've had some clients like that who are very, very, very guarded. And in the end, I don't think the outcome was very good. But those that were open and they're willing to share with me the scars, because behind every scar, there's a story. If they show me the scars, we'll be able to find the story.
Right, nice. And your most challenging experience as an entrepreneur?
Oh my God. Biggest one is expecting someone to give me a deal that I believe I've earned, and they turn me away, or they look in a different direction. Now, if I didn't earn it, no worries. I'll move on very quickly. But if I've already put work into it, I've already put the labor on the sweat and the tears, I've put my sweat equity, and they turn around suddenly and give in a different direction, or they take my knowledge and run away with it, that, man, it gives me 2-3 days of sleepless nights, and it's painful. But when I recover from it, I move on.
Right. And I guess that experience also gets you a bit stronger and wiser in terms of how you deal with people. And all right, last rapid question. And as an entrepreneur, whom do you admire? Anyone that you really admire, look up to?
I got a lot. I got a long list. Yeah, how much time do you have?
All right, let's talk about the top one up there.
One that is right at the top, believe it or not, is the founder of Air Asia, Tony Fernandez.
Yes.
I really admire that guy. From scraps, it's like nobody, like a little unknown guy, but he works so hard to make $1 billion or more for himself. So I really look up to him and admire him. I don't know him in person. He doesn't know me, but I just know his story. I look at when his airline had an accident, the way he positioned himself with all humility, with all humanity. I thought, man, that is somebody that when I grow up, if I can have just a fraction of his wisdom and his knowledge, I think that would be unbelievable. Yeah, I admire him very much. I have a lot more, but like I say, that's the top.
And interestingly, Gideon, I recently was in the talks with Mr. Tony and his
Wow.
commercial side, and we are trying to get him on Bettery Lab actually.
No kidding.
Hopefully, that works on.
No kidding.
That'll be awesome.
Let him know that he has one big admirer with a weird name and a goofy accent from Africa by name Gideon.
All right, and thanks. And any word of advice, Gideon, for our viewers?
What can I say? Let's see. Okay, there is it's a commercial. It's famous out here. Maybe it's not famous in Asia and other parts of the world, in which you have this famous actor Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
So Samuel L. Jackson advertises a credit card for a company known as Capital One, and he really brags about it. He extols the values of the credit card. He goes, "This is the Quicksilver cashback card from Capital One. Unlimited benefits on every purchase, everywhere, every damn day. Now tell me, what's in your wallet?" When I listened to that, I said, BS, absolute BS. I don't care what's in your wallet. You know what I care about? I care about what's in your basket. Your basket of hope, your heart. That's what you bring to the world. I don't care about what's in your wallet, but I care about what's in your basket. And I think your customers care about what's in your basket. Your prospects care about what's in your basket in terms of how can you improve their situation? What lessons have you learned from life that you can help them to improve their market situation? That's what they care about. And that you can express with a gentle, with a thoughtful story. And when you do that, we would say you are a true hero for us. And that's what I would say. Look at what's in your basket, not what's in your wallet, and bring that to the world with grace, with humility, and yes, with a little bit of audacity. Thank you.
Nice. Very nice. And Dr. Gideon, if there are viewers out there who would like to contact you, I had a message, personal message from one of them. If they want to contact you, can they, directly message you through LinkedIn to get to know more?
Absolutely. They can message me rapid fire through LinkedIn. I check it every day myself. My VA also works on it, but I check it myself also. So they can contact me, Gideon For-mukwai, on LinkedIn, and they can also go to storywarrior.us. And they can drop me a note there. I'm very accessible. I'm not the kind of guarded business guy that feels that they're special. No, I'm not special. I'm just like every other person out there in the rains, out there in the trenches every single day. I love to engage with folks who are also on a mission like me. If you are a story warrior, if you're on a mission doing something, you're a story warrior in some way. And let us join forces and see if we can create a better world. A world with less ignorance, a world with less intolerance, a world with less indifference. When we can uproot darkness from the face of the world, through our stories, I think we've done our part. And so feel free to engage with me at any time, or through a Bettery Hub. Also, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Gideon. And we promise something to the viewers that we're going to talk about a story and then followed by putting a point across. I mean, we have done it a couple of times during our interview. Maybe you would like to just do that before we end our show for today.
Okay. Give me just let's say 1 second to grab something that I can use a prop. Is that okay?
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
The reason why I got Dr. Gideon to share this specific story is because, about 7 to 8 years ago, when I sat in his session and we were, chatting and there is one story that made me really feel that, wow, why did I think about that? Why am I not putting forward my stories out there as effective as what he did? And I think this is where, what's best when you have a live demonstration. And welcome back.
Sure, my pleasure. So, have you ever wanted something so badly you could not wait to put your hands around it?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
I don't know. Think about that object. Think about that special item. For me, it was something that every young boy in Africa was dreaming of having. I was one of them. And I remember the time when my mom said to me, "All right, little boy, get ready. Tomorrow, we're going to go to the market." So we spent the whole day harvesting all the fruits that we could get. Our peanuts, we put them to one basket. Our pumpkins, we put them to one basket. Everything that we could figure out around our farm, we put into one basket. We call it a basket of hope. The next morning at 5:30 a.m., my mom came to my room and knocked. "Little boy, wake up. It's time for us to head out to the market." I woke up. It was still dark outside. I struggled with myself. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, Mom, is this really serious?" And she said, "Yeah, get ready. Let's go." Hurriedly brushed up and carried a huge basket. And I put my basket on my head. Something similar to this, or maybe 10 times more than this. My mom also carried her own basket with the peanuts, the pumpkins, and the chili peppers. As we stepped outside, it was cold, it was dark, and it was windy. Myself, my mom, we started on that journey to a very distant market, maybe like 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers away. We stepped outside, we started walking. Of course, mom wore a pair of shoes. I was barefooted, up through the mountains, down through the forest, in through the forest, and out through several rivers. When I got sick and tired of the endless walking, I stopped for a moment, lifted up my basket, and said, "Mom, how long will it take before we arrive at the market?" She looked at me and slowly said, "It's going to take us 5 mountains and 5 valleys, and until maybe we see a rainbow." I was agitated. I was like, "Mom, until we see a rainbow? Will I still be alive by the time we arrive?" He said, "Little boy, come along. Can't you see other boys your age coming along? Come, let's go." We continued the journey up through the mountains, down through the valleys, in through the forest, and out through several rivers. I would never forget one of those rivers. We got to the river. Believe it or not, the bridge had been blown away by a heavy storm. We had to literally get into the water and walk across a river with a fast moving current. Have you ever tried carrying a basket and walking through a river with a fast moving current when the water is so cold, it's bone chilling cold? Not a great idea. Not the best way to train a young boy. But in the case of Africa, in Cameroon, that was just normal. It's a regular day. So I held on to my mom's hand and we literally took one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time until we got across that river. Once we got to the other side, I was so relieved. I could not be more relieved. I was like, thank God I made it alive. And as luck would have it, we got to the market in time by 8 a.m. That means about 3 hours of walking. We sold all our produce in less than no time. So mom collected all the money. She said 2 things. Number one, We'll go buy some fish and salt for the home. Then we'll go get that special item for you. We maneuvered ourselves through this crowded outdoor market. It's like you are, let's say, at Plaza Singapura, all right, but it's all outdoor under giant trees. We bought the fish, we bought the salt, and then we went to the other part beneath a giant oak tree. That's where they sell the shoes. Excitedly, I picked up the first one. I said, Mom, I love this one. I love this one. I still remember what was written on those shoes. It was Disco 83. I tried on that pair of sneakers and it fitted me just right. And then Mom said, all right, cool. She reached deep into her pocket and then she froze for a moment. She had looked at the price and then she said, hold on a minute. I said, Mom, can you pay for it? Let's go. She said, I'm afraid. I'm afraid we cannot afford it today. I broke down crying at the center of the market. I said, Mom, please do something about this. Can you take a loan from somebody? Can you do something about this? I'm so sick and tired of walking around barefooted for so long. Choking back her tears, Mom came from behind and she said, little boy, come and walk with me. When I can afford it, you'll be the first to know. It can be delayed, but it cannot be denied. Please come and walk with me. Very reluctantly, I got back up and I faked a terrible limp all the way back home that day, just to show Mom how desperate I was. And we arrived home very late at night, and Mom said to me, remember, my word to you is one day you'll get this. What is delayed cannot be denied. And she took like 2 or 3 more weeks of saving a few more coins before she could buy for me my first pair of shoes at the age of 10. And I would never forget my first pair of shoes. When I got it, I started dancing around all the village. I wasn't even wearing them. I was dancing and announcing and knocking on people's doors just to say, you know what? I got my first pair of shoes. It was a big deal for me. But you see, life is not about the things that we have. Because recently, I was cleaning my closet, I discovered I now have more than a dozen pairs of shoes. And if I want to have 2 dozen pairs of shoes, I can afford them. 3 dozen pairs of shoes, I can afford them. If I want to put Imelda Marcos to shame, I can certainly do that with shoes. But I also realize life is not about shoes. It's about sharing the lessons, the painful moments, about the things that you've overcome in life with others as a way to encourage them to say, whatever you're struggling with today, just tell yourself, it can be delayed, it cannot be denied. So if your first sale or your second sale with this particular client didn't work out, no worries. It can be delayed, but it cannot be denied. I can assure you about that. So my friends, keep working, keep striving, and one day you have more than a dozen pairs of shoes. Because as for me, I think I've become, maybe I'm not yet successful, but I've become very, very, very shoe-successful. You can be pretty much sure about that.
Oh, awesome, excellent. I mean, that was, I remember that story way before many years ago, and I still remember that, and I love the way you delivered, and I love the way you put your props up there. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Gideon. I think I can't ask for anything more, or our viewers can't ask for anything more than this live demonstration you just did. Thank you, and I'm still thinking about your journey to the market. The current and the picture and everything. So, so for those of you out there, do remember, connect with Dr. Gideon, and if there's any questions, do feel free to engage him. And Dr. Gideon, thank you so much. It was an excellent and enriching session that I had, and you ended our session with this awesome story, and I think that made me feel wow. It's really wow.
Thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to come on this show. Keep empowering, keep encouraging more people, and I'm so glad that you gave me this opportunity. And I pray that everybody stay safe out there and keep striving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gideon, and I'll catch you up at the staging area in a bit.
My pleasure. All the best. Have a wonderful day.
All right, see you.
Bye.
Excellent. I mean, for those of you, I had an awesome time, a lot of learning, and that's the only reason every time I actually meet up with Dr. Gideon, whether online, and I'm just really waiting for him, to come on so I can meet up with him live in Singapore. So without that, thank you so much. I definitely know that we took a bit more time than usual, but I think it was worth, especially with the demonstration that Dr. Gideon just did. So no live chat is complete without you. So thank you for spending your time with us, and do feel free and please keep giving us your feedback and comments so that we can consistently do it better. Just some reminders that I have for you. Take note of our upcoming new programs. Our new program that will be on the 29th of July. So this is where I'll be actually putting up some questions or some topics that you may want to discuss, and so do feel free to engage me for this. And of course, for those of you who have missed today's program, I will be actually putting up the YouTube link later, so you can actually go check out our live chat with Dr. Gideon on our YouTube channel. So with that, thank you, and do remember, take action. No matter how bad things get, I think it's always about keep moving forward. So with that, see ya.